what does the RV look like? Like, in your opinion, what is it? This whole reevaluation. We got the inflation. I think maybe we'll eventually see some deflation because things are happening. We got gas prices went up, then they went down a little bit. Now they're going back up. Kind of explain what this whole RV thing looks like as much as you can. Again, you do more in the back office, so
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Jimmy. People that's been around for a while, especially if you were here in the mid to upper 70s, when President Jimmy Carter was in office, we remember very similar patterns going on right now. There were people on both sides of the fence, which there always are about oil and oil production, but there are different times where it would come above the surface and they would argue about it. And then drastic measures were taken. And in the drastic measures that were taken, we saw similarities to the exact pattern we've seen in the last 24 months now. And that is that the actions they took drove up fuel prices and interest rates started to climb. I shared with you guys yesterday, bought my first condo in the 70s, and it was 18% interest. Are we going to get back to 18% interest? Probably not. But the point being is, every time an interest rate goes up a point, it's costing people completely in the food chain. Just like, an increase of, 10-20% at the pump, it might not be called a tax, but to a diesel truck driver who's driving from, New York to Florida, you better believe when that driver is breaking his back to make 75 to $85,000 a year, and all of a sudden one of his biggest costs just went up. How about the airline industry? Imagine what that's doing, but we saw similar things. The other thing that we saw is after a couple of years, things changed. The key of it here is that might be where it differs a little bit, Jim. And that is, I think certain assets, and this is what the Lama series is saying, will purchase certain other assets. The proper portfolio to be thinking about is maybe instead of going to a financial planner saying, I need to have a financial portfolio, you might want to look at it through the Lama series eyes and see more what's an energy portfolio, an intrinsic portfolio look like. Because the way the Lama series is talking, we need to start viewing all kind of assets as a form of currency. We have a tendency as a human race, we're kind of lazy in thinking. And we have a tendency that we want one catch all answer that seems to cover everything. In other words, okay, the US dollar could be replaced. What's it going to be replaced? Is it going to be called the dollar? Right? So we want to trade this for that. When in reality, we could see precious metals being used to purchase certain assets, electronic currencies being used to purchase other assets. I mean, like for instance, Musk saying that buying Teslas, they're one of the few car companies that's up right now. If you look at the Wall Street Journal, but he's saying, I'm accepting electronic currency for Tesla. And we got Putin saying, well, if your currency's backed by gold, we would rather have gold for oil. Now, you see, this is what the Lamasery is saying. So if I was to build a portfolio randomly where different elements of nature and different intrinsic value, including cash, real estate, precious metals, electronic currency, you want to know what it looks like? That's kind of how it's shaping up. Does it play out in a few months? No, it plays out in a couple of years. Could
Yes.
be as many as 5 to 10 years. But to say, has it started? Well, you'd be already behind the 8 ball if you're looking for it to start. But it's not too late to become very conscious and spiritually connected, Jimmy, and especially with discernment, and then listen to people like a Joseph Land, listen to people like yourselves that have built businesses, people who consciously know where to place assets. But the Lamasery says it's not going to be a catch-all that we're used to. A dollar's not going to eventually buy everything you want it to buy. It's not that the dollar is going to disappear overnight like doom and gloom haysayers might think. It's that the dollar's value towards certain assets is going to deteriorate. Then electronic assets are going to seek some of that vacuum, and then precious metals are going to seek other, and real estate and different levels of real estate. For instance, farmland is one thing toward someone buying, a warehouse building that can generate passive revenue. That's another thing. All of these assets should start to be looked at as forms of currency